So I've been working on this function that right fills nested headers and optionally combines them and promotes them. This is a common problem in tables in Excel. I've been working on a separate video for that, but what I wanted to talk about today was documentation. So this version that you can see is a version of the function with no documentation. And you can see that there's no really descriptive text here. We don't really know what these mean. And if we look at the function itself, there's no metadata attached to any of the steps, and the parameters appear at the top of the query, so they're outside of a let expression. So that's a version with no documentation. And if I try to call that by typing it into a query, and then do that, it shows me the parameters, which is great. And when you're using or typing a query into the advanced editor or into the formula bar, you want to see the parameters, you want to know where you are. So that's great. This version of the function here does have documentation, and you can see I've added a description of the function, put my website in there. I've got parameter descriptions, friendly names. I've defined whether they're optional or not, and I've got some example values here as well. And if we look at the advanced editor for this function, this is the documentation. So you define your function. You define your function here as within a let expression, and then you define a record for your documentation, which has various predefined field names. And you can also define a function type with column types, or rather parameter types within this function type, which I've called my type. And then at the end, we use value.replace type and value.replace metadata to assign the documentation and to assign the function type to the function defined at the top of the script. Now, the one thing that I do notice is that these parameters are not at the top of the function, they're inside a let. So just bear that in mind. The difference is when I try to call it from the formula bar, like this, first of all, nothing happens when I type that. If I press Control Space, no suggestions. So now I just have no way of knowing what the parameters are. I can hover over this and it kind of gives me the text, but it's a bit messy and it's difficult to read. So as of today, I don't know the way around this. And what I'm hoping is that some bright, experienced Power Query developer out there can point me in the right direction